It's weird talking about this. I know how it's going to sound, like just another urban legend someone made up to scare kids on Halloween. But I swear to you, this is real. My sister, Maya, is gone, and it's connected to that damn parade. I've spent the last year obsessing over it, trying to piece together what happened. And tonight I'm going in. They call it the Midnight Parade. The story has been passed down for as long as anyone in Ravenwood can remember. It happens only on Halloween, exactly at midnight and always in silence. People say the parade is a kind of ritual, and anyone foolish enough to join will disappear forever. Most folks here just laugh it off, something to keep kids inside after dark. But I've seen it. It's real, and Maya is proof. It's been exactly 1 year since she vanished. We were watching from the porch, just like we always did. She told me she wanted to get a closer look, that she just wanted to follow them down the street for a minute. I told her to come back right away. She smiled and said, "Relax, Elliot. I'll be fine." That was the last thing she ever said to me. I didn't see her join the parade. She just disappeared into the fog. At first, I thought she was playing a joke or got lost somewhere. But when the sun came up, there was no sign of her. No footprints. No scent for the search dogs to follow. It was like she never existed at all. And here's the worst part. Nobody remembers her. Not my parents, not her friends. They act like she was never even born. It's like she got erased. But I remember. I know she was real. I still have her photo. I still have her. For the past year, I've tried everything to get people to talk about the parade, but no one will. They either laugh it off or just go quiet, like they're scared to even think about it. And honestly, I've started to notice strange things ever since Maya disappeared. Small things, but they build up. Scratches on the walls of our house. Mirrors breaking for no reason. Weird cold spots, even when the heat is on. At first, I thought I was going crazy. But then I realized it's the town. It's like it knows something is coming, and it doesn't want me getting in the way. I know this sounds stupid, but I think Maya's still out there. Somewhere. I think the parade took her. And tonight, I'm going to follow it. I've been planning this for months. I have everything ready. My flashlight, her photo, and a way to mark the streets so I don't get lost. If the parade took Maya, it means there's a way to get her back. I just have to figure out how. The thing about the parade is it doesn't follow any pattern. It just shows up out of nowhere. 1 minute, the streets are empty, and the next, the fog rolls in and the marchers appear. They don't talk. They don't laugh. They just move like they're sleepwalking. I've seen them a few times over the years. Their masks are the worst part. Some are animals like deer, owls, or wolves, and others look like twisted human faces, smiling or frowning, but always frozen. The weird thing is, they all look familiar, like faces I've seen before, but can't quite place. Tonight, the town feels off. It's quiet, even for Halloween. Normally, you'd hear kids running around or music from house parties, but tonight, it's dead silent. The air feels thick like it's waiting for something. I'm sitting on my porch with Maya's picture in my pocket, waiting for the bells to chime. That's how it always starts, the bells. You can't tell where they're coming from. They just ring, faint and far away, and by the time the last one sounds, the parade has begun. I don't know what I'm expecting to happen when those bells start, but the waiting is the worst part. It's like the whole town is holding its breath, hoping the parade will pass through without claiming anyone else this year. I sit on the porch, gripping my flashlight, so tight my knuckles hurt. My heart is pounding, and I keep checking the street for any sign of fog rolling in. It feels like the world is balancing on the edge of something, and I'm the only one stupid enough to be standing here, waiting for it to tip over. Finally, it happens. The first bell sounds low and distant, like it's coming from somewhere deep underground. I freeze listening. There's no mistaking it. The bells only ring on Halloween at midnight. A second chime follows, then a third, each one louder and closer. By the 12th bell, the fog creeps in, sliding between houses and curling around streetlights like fingers. It spreads unnaturally fast, too thick to be normal mist. Within seconds, the entire street is drowned in it, leaving everything outside my porch in a hazy blur. Then they appear. The masked figures drift out of the fog, moving in a slow, deliberate line. There's no music, no chanting, just the shuffle of footsteps on pavement. They walk in perfect silence, their heads tilted slightly forward as if in a trance. I can't tell how many of them there are. They stretch back into the fog, an endless line of strange, lifeless marchers. Some wear animal masks with twisted horns and glassy eyes. Others have painted smiles stretched too wide, like they're mocking something only they understand. And just like that, I see her, Maya. She's in the middle of the parade, wearing a porcelain mask painted with delicate flowers. Her hair falls over her shoulders just like it always did, but her eyes, they're hollow, empty. My stomach turns, and for a second I almost lose my nerve. I don't know what I was expecting, but seeing her like this, it's worse than anything I imagined. She's alive, but not. Like she's trapped in some dream she can't wake up from. I don't have time to think. If I wait too long, she'll disappear with the rest of them. I tuck her picture deeper into my pocket, grip the flashlight tighter, and step off the porch. The cold fog wraps around me instantly, swallowing the street behind me. I'm in. The parade is even stranger up close. The marchers move without rhythm, like their bodies are being pulled along by invisible strings. There's no sound except for the scrape of shoes on asphalt. I fall in a step at the edge of the line, trying to stay close to Maya without drawing attention to myself. Nobody looks at me, but the air feels heavy, like the weight of 100 unseen eyes pressing down on my back. Every step I take makes my head feel foggy, like I'm forgetting something important. Memories slip away. The way our house smells after it rains, my mom's laugh, the scar on Maya's knee from when she fell off her bike. It's like the parade is pulling the pieces of my life away from me, one by one, replacing them with a cold emptiness. I can't stop moving. If I fall behind, I'll lose Maya forever. The streets twist and shift around us, turning the familiar town into a maze of dark alleys and strange corners that shouldn't exist. Buildings loom overhead, their windows glowing faintly, as if something inside is watching us. I pass a street I know doesn't exist. Its sign reads Ash Lane, but I've lived here my whole life, and I've never seen it before. Suddenly, Maya glances back. It's just a flicker, a brief moment where her eyes meet mine through the mask. She opens her mouth like she's trying to speak, but the words are barely a whisper. Run? Her voice sends a jolt of fear through me. She knows what's coming, something worse than the parade itself. But it's too late. I feel it before I see it. The cold, creeping sensation spreading across my skin, like the fog is trying to crawl inside me. My hand shoots up to my face, and that's when I realize the mask is forming. It starts as a thin layer of porcelain over my cheeks, cold and smooth like melted ice. I claw at it, but it's useless. The more I struggle, the faster it grows, spreading across my nose, my mouth, my eyes. My fingers tremble as I try to remember why I'm here, Maya. I have to find Maya. Through the narrowing slits of my vision, I spot him, the leader of the parade. He's at the very front, towering over the other marchers in a cracked harlequin mask. His presence feels different, heavier, like the weight of centuries pressing down on his shoulders. This is the one my grandmother warned me about. The original leader. The one who started this cursed march. If I can stop him, maybe I can break the cycle. The mask on my face tightens, making it harder to breathe, but I push forward. I weave through the silent marchers, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. My fingers brush against Maya's hand, and for a second, she squeezes back. It's all the encouragement I need. When I reach the leader, I grab the edge of his cracked mask and pull. It doesn't come off easily. It feels like I'm ripping a part of myself away. The porcelain splinters under my grip, and the mask falls to the ground with a dull thud. I stare into the face beneath it. It's me. I stumble back, my mind reeling. The leader's face is identical to mine. Same eyes, same nose, same everything. It's like looking into a mirror, but the expression staring back at me is colder, emptier. This is what I'm destined to become, a hollow version of myself, trapped in the parade forever. No, I whisper, my voice cracking. This can't be real, but it is real. I can feel the pull of the parade, the way it tugs at my soul, trying to drag me into its endless march. Desperate, I do the only thing I can think of. I raise my flashlight and smash the Harlequin mask into pieces. The moment the mask shatters, the world around me collapses. The marchers crumble into dust, the fog lifts, and the streets of Ravenwood reappear as if nothing ever happened. The parade is gone. I stand there, panting, the flashlight still clutched in my shaking hand. It's over. I did it, or so I think. When I make it home at dawn, Maya is sitting on the porch, just like she never left. She looks at me and smiles, her face bright and familiar, with no memory of the parade or the years she was gone. Relief floods through me, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. But as we walk inside, something catches my eye. The mirror in the hallway. I stop dead in my tracks. My reflection isn't smiling back at me. It's still wearing the mask. And just as the distant bells chime again, I realize the parade isn't over. My stomach twists as I stare at the mirror. The masked version of me tilts its head slightly, its expression cold and unreadable. The porcelain glistens in the dim light, flawless and smooth, except for one crack running from the corner of the mouth to the edge of the jaw. A cold sweat breaks across my forehead. I take a step closer, hoping it's some trick of the light, some remnant of sleep deprivation. But the reflection moves with me, perfectly synchronized, as if it's mocking me. Maya, I whisper, my voice trembling. She's already heading toward the kitchen, oblivious to the nightmare unraveling in the hallway. I want to call out to her to ask if she sees it too, but something tells me that would be a mistake. My reflection grins beneath the mask, and I freeze. It knows. The bells are still ringing, faint but persistent, like they're coming from somewhere deep beneath the floorboards. Each chime feels closer than the last, thrumming inside my skull. I force myself to look away from the mirror, but the image lingers, burned into the back of my mind. The parade didn't end. It just followed me home. I shake my head, trying to clear the fog creeping back into my thoughts. I can't let it control me again. I need to think. If the parade isn't over, what does it want? The air inside the house feels strange, too thick, too still, like it's holding its breath. I step into the living room, expecting everything to be normal. But as soon as I enter, the lights flicker, casting long shadows that stretch across the walls. There's a strange smell in the air, faint but sharp, like burnt leaves mixed with cold iron. Then the whispers begin, They start softly, barely audible, like the sound of wind brushing through cracked windows. But as I stand frozen in place, the voices grow louder. They speak in a language I don't understand, their words curling around me like smoke, tugging at the edges of my mind. It's the same feeling I had during the parade, like they're trying to take something from me. I glance toward Maya, who is humming softly to herself in the kitchen. She doesn't seem to hear the voices. It's only me. My pulse quickens. If the parade followed me, then it must be tied to me somehow. Maybe it isn't just about Maya. Maybe it's always been about me. And then, like a knife slicing through my thoughts, a voice cuts through the whispers. Come back! The voice is low and distant, but I recognize it. It's my own. Not the version standing here in the living room, but the one from the mirror, the masked one. I spin around, but the hallway is empty now. The mirror hangs crooked on the wall, the glass warped slightly, as if it's breathing. I can feel it calling to me, pulling me toward it. I take a step back, but the bells chime again, louder this time. My head throbs with each ring, and the room tilts slightly beneath my feet. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to fight off the dizziness, but when I open them again, the mirror isn't just reflecting the room anymore. It's showing something else. Fog spills out from the glass, swirling along the edges of the frame. Through the haze, I can see the parade, marching endlessly down a street that doesn't exist, its figures blurred and distorted, as if viewed through a dream. And there, at the heart of the procession, is me, the masked version, still leading the way. I step closer, my breath hitching in my throat. The figure in the mirror tilts its head again, and for a moment, I swear it's smiling beneath the porcelain mask. Then it raises a hand, slowly, deliberately, and beckons me forward. Come back, the voice whispers again, this time clearer. I know I should run. Every instinct in my body is screaming at me to get away, to grab Maya and leave this house, this town. Anything to escape the pull of the parade. But I can't move. My feet are rooted to the floor, drawn toward the mirror like a moth to a flame. Behind me, the lights flicker again, plunging the room into brief moments of darkness. The air hums with an electric tension, as if the entire house is on the verge of collapsing into something else. Something colder, older, and far more dangerous. I reach out, my fingers brushing the glass. It's cold. The fog inside the mirror parts, revealing the parade in full detail. I can see the marchers more clearly now. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them, all wearing masks. And every face, every mask is someone from Ravenwood. Some are old friends I haven't seen in years. Others are people I barely know. But they're all here, marching silently through the endless mist, their eyes hollow and lost. And then I see Maya. She's still in the middle of the procession, but something's different now. Her mask is cracked, just like mine, and she's staring directly at me, her eyes wide with fear. She opens her mouth to speak, but no sound comes out. Only the faint echo of the bells, ringing endlessly in the distance. I know what I have to do. Without thinking, I press both hands against the mirror. The glass feels like ice beneath my palms, and for a moment, I think it's solid. But then it gives way, rippling like the surface of a lake. I don't hesitate. I step through. The cold hits me like a slap, sharp and immediate. The fog wraps around me, pulling me deeper into the parade. The sounds of the real world fade away, replaced by the soft shuffle of footsteps and the endless tolling of the bells. I stumble forward, my heart pounding. The masked marchers pay me no attention as I weave through the crowd, searching for Maya. My breath fogs in front of me, each exhale swallowed by the mist. And then I see her, just a few steps ahead, her mask cracked and slipping from her face. I reach out, grabbing her hand. "Maya!" I gasp. "I'm getting us out of here." She turns to me, her eyes wide and filled with something I can't quite place. Relief, fear, hope. But before I can pull her away, the leader of the parade appears. It's me again, but this time, the mask is gone, revealing a face twisted with anger and sorrow. "You can't leave," it whispers, the voice sharp and cold. "You belong here." The masked figures close in around us, their eyes glowing faintly in the mist. The bells grow louder, their chimes almost deafening now, vibrating through my skull. I won't let them take us. With a surge of adrenaline, I yank Maya forward, forcing our way through the crowd. The fog thickens around us, pulling at our limbs like invisible hands. But I don't stop. I can feel the pull of the real world just ahead, a faint warmth, a glimmer of light beyond the mist. The bells chime one last time, louder than ever, and the parade shatters around us. We tumble through the fog, hitting the floor of my living room with a heavy thud. The mirror behind us cracks, splintering into 1,000 pieces. It's over. We made it out. But as I lie there, gasping for breath, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in one of the broken shards. The mask is still there, and it's smiling. The jagged shards of the mirror glitter ominously on the floor. Maya sits beside me, her breathing ragged, clutching her arms like she's trying to keep herself from shattering along with the glass. For a fleeting moment, I feel relief. We escaped. We're safe. But that relief is short-lived. I can't tear my gaze away from the reflection in the broken shard. My mask grins back at me, cracks creeping wider across its porcelain face like spreading fractures in ice. Its lifeless eyes seem to glimmer with mischief and malice. I blink, and the reflection moves independently for the briefest second, tilting its head at a strange angle, as if mocking me. Then it whispers again, soft and venomous. "You think this is over?" A cold chill wraps around my heart. Maya flinches beside me. Her eyes lock on something beyond my shoulder, and I can feel the air shift. My pulse quickens as I turn slowly to face the mirror's remnants. The shards, dozens of them, begin to pulse with a faint, rhythmic glow. Chime, chime, chime. The bells are still here. The parade never left. The air grows heavy, like the weight of 1,000 footsteps pressing down on my chest. My hands tremble as I reach out to touch Maya's shoulder, but her skin feels too cold, too distant, like she's slipping away from me. "No," I whisper, shaking my head. "We got out. We're free." But Maya looks at me with wide, terrified eyes. And then she starts humming the same strange tune from earlier. "No!" I grab her shoulders, shaking her lightly. "Maya, stop. Don't listen to it." Her humming grows louder, more frantic, her body swaying in rhythm with the distant bells. Her eyes glaze over, lost in a trance as if something or someone has already claimed her. And then I see it, her reflection in the shards. Her mask is whole again, smooth and pristine, without a crack in sight. Worse, it's not just on her reflection. The shadow of it flickers across her real face, as if the mask is slowly grafting itself onto her skin. I scream her name, but she doesn't hear me. She only hums, eyes dull and lifeless, like a puppet with its strings tangled in the hands of some unseen master. If you are currently enjoying this story, pause the video and please subscribe to the Horror Shack and make sure you like this video and leave us a comment saying I am enjoying the story, as this would help us get feedback and also encourage us to tell more true spine-chilling stories like this one. Now, let's continue the story. I grab one of the shards from the floor, ignoring the sharp sting as the glass bites into my palm. Blood trickles down my wrist, but I don't care. I lift the shard high, desperate to shatter whatever curse has latched onto Maya. But then the bells ring louder, so loud I feel my skull vibrate. I stumble, clutching my ears, and when I look up, I'm not in the living room anymore. We're back in the parade. The fog surrounds us, thick and suffocating, muffling the world beyond. Marchers drift by like ghosts, their masked faces turned toward us, their silent footsteps echoing in the mist. And standing at the head of the procession is me, the other version, mask fully intact, face twisted with joy. "You can't escape," it whispers. "You were always part of this." Maya slips from my grasp, her body dissolving into the mist, joining the endless marchers. I scream, lunging toward her, but invisible hands hold me back. The fog wraps tighter around me, and the bells toll one final time, loud enough to drown out my thoughts, my voice, everything. And then, in the stillness that follows, I understand. This isn't a curse. It's not something that followed me home. It's who I've always been. The masked version of me steps forward, and I feel myself unraveling, piece by piece. The mask isn't something I can take off. It's part of me, as much a part of me as my heartbeat or my breath. I drop the shard of glass, and it vanishes before it even hits the ground. There's no escape from the parade, because the parade isn't just around me, it's inside me. The leader offers me its hand, my hand, and this time I take it. The fog lifts, and the parade moves forward. I march at the front now, a new mask settling over my face like a second skin. The bells chime in perfect rhythm, and the marchers follow without question. As the parade stretches endlessly into the mist, I catch one last glimpse of Maya, her mask flawless, her steps perfectly in sync with the music. She doesn't resist anymore. She belongs here, just like I do, just like we always have. And so, the parade continues, endlessly, without beginning or end, without escape or salvation. If you ever hear the sound of bells late at night, don't follow them. Don't look for the source, because if you do, the parade will find you too. I'm not the kind of person who believes in curses or legends. At least I wasn't until last Halloween. I never thought a harmless tradition could go so far off the rails. And honestly, if I knew what I know now, I'd have thrown that lantern into the deepest part of the woods the second I got it. But I didn't. Instead, I lit it, and everything changed. It started as a joke, really. There's this weird old guy who shows up in our town every Halloween, just once a year. No one knows where he comes from or where he goes after the night's over. All anyone knows is that he sets up a rickety wooden stall in the town square and sells these creepy jack-o'-lanterns. They're not the store-bought plastic kind or the cute ones with funny faces you see on porches. These lanterns are different, handmade, carved with faces that don't look quite right, like they're watching you. People in town say his lanterns come with a warning. Light it, and it'll grant your deepest wish. But beware, every wish has a price. It sounds dumb, right? That's exactly what my friends Owen, Sam, and I thought. Just some creepy Halloween gimmick to add to the vibe of our town, Hallows End. But this year, we decided we'd have some fun with it. We went to the old man's stall on Halloween night, more for a laugh than anything else. He was already sitting there when we arrived, hunched over, like he'd been waiting just for us. His eyes, I can't explain it, but they looked tired, as if he'd seen too much. He didn't try to pitch us the lanterns or convince us to buy one. Instead, he just gave us a look and said, "You know the rules. Light it, wish it, but be ready for what follows." We thought it was hilarious. I mean, how could you take that seriously? Owen handed over $20, and we each picked a lantern. They were cold to the touch, almost unnaturally so. Mine had a jagged grin carved into it, and the flickering candle inside made the shadows look alive. "All right," I said, holding it up dramatically. "Let's make some wishes." Now here's the thing. We didn't expect anything to happen. It was supposed to be a stupid joke. Just kids messing around, right? So, I wished for something harmless. There was this guy, Jake, popular, good-looking, and way out of my league. I wished he'd finally notice me, maybe even ask me out. Owen, on the other hand, went darker. He'd had it bad with this guy named Tyler, your typical high school bully. Tyler made Owen's life hell for months. So Owen wished, half-jokingly, for revenge. "I just want that guy to pay," he said, grinning as he lit his lantern. Sam's wish, though, hit differently. His family had been struggling with money for a while. His dad's business was going under, and they were barely scraping by. So Sam, without skipping a beat, wished for cash. Lots of it. He lit his lantern last, and we stood there for a second, laughing about how dumb it all was. Then we went on with our night, thinking that was the end of it. Except it wasn't. The first sign that something was off came the very next morning. Jake, the guy I had a crush on, he walked straight up to me in the cafeteria and sat down like we were old friends. Just like that. No small talk, no awkward introductions. He acted like he'd known me forever. At first, I was thrilled. I mean, this was exactly what I'd wished for, right? But after a couple of days, it started getting weird. Jake wouldn't leave me alone. He texted me constantly, showed up outside my house late at night, and even followed me around town. At first, I thought it was cute, like maybe he was just really into me. But then it started to feel off. He looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered, like nothing else in the world existed except me. And the way he talked, it was obsessive, almost like he was trying to convince himself that we were meant to be together. Meanwhile, Owen's wish was coming true too, just not in the way he expected. Tyler, the bully, he didn't just get in trouble. He vanished. No one saw him after Halloween. The school sent out emails saying he was suspended indefinitely, but nobody knew where he was or what had happened. At first, Owen thought it was hilarious. "Guess I got my wish, huh?" he said, grinning. But then the text started. At first, they were random, like, "You'll regret this," or "You can't hide forever." Owen thought someone was playing a prank, but the text came from Tyler's phone, and Tyler was still missing. Then there was Sam. His family did get money, but not the way he imagined. A week after Halloween, his uncle, who was perfectly healthy, died suddenly. Heart attack, they said, and just like that, Sam's family inherited everything. They paid off their debts, got a new car, and things should have been great. But Sam couldn't shake the feeling that the money wasn't really theirs. Every time they spent $1, something bad happened. His dad sprained his ankle. His little sister got sick. It was like the money carried a curse with it. That's when we realized none of our wishes were free. The lanterns weren't gifts. They were traps. Every wish came at someone else's expense. Someone had to lose for us to win. And worse, the lanterns wouldn't let us back out. We tried blowing out the candles, but the flames burned brighter. We even tried smashing them, but they wouldn't break. By now, we were desperate. I was terrified of Jake. Owen was getting those creepy messages every day. And Sam's family was falling apart despite all the money. We knew we had to find the old man and make him undo whatever curse he'd put on us. We went back to the town square that night, but his stall was gone. There was no sign he'd ever been there. Just as we were about to give up, we saw him, standing at the edge of the woods, holding a lantern of his own. "Please," I begged. We didn't know what we were doing. "Just make it stop." He gave us a sad smile and shook his head. "The only way out he said, is to snuff out the flame. But if you do, you take my place. The curse needs a keeper. In the end, we had no choice. We blew out our lanterns one by one. Jake stopped texting me. Tyler showed up at school like nothing had happened. And Sam's family lost the inheritance overnight. We thought it was over. But the next morning, there were 3 new lanterns waiting on our doorsteps, glowing just like before. And this time, there was no old man in sight. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we won't light them. Maybe we'll ignore them. But somehow, I think the lanterns aren't done with us yet. We stared at the lanterns on our doorsteps, glowing with a sinister light that felt like it was pulsing, almost alive. My heart raced as I thought of what we had been through. The warnings we ignored, the consequences we had faced, and now this. Guys, maybe we should just leave them alone, I suggested, feeling an unsettling chill creep over me. I mean, we broke the curse, right? We can just forget this whole thing ever happened. But even as I said the words, I felt the weight of doubt in my gut. Deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Owen scoffed. Forget it? You really think they'll just let us walk away after everything? These things are dangerous. He glanced at the lanterns, his eyes narrowing. What if they want something else? What if they're waiting for us to make another wish? I'm not lighting anything, Sam said, shoving his hands in his pockets. I don't want to end up like Tyler or Jake or anyone else who's gotten mixed up in this. But as the days passed, the lanterns became an obsession. Every time I walked past my front door, I felt their pull, like they were whispering to me, tempting me to light them up. That evening, as we sat in my living room, trying to distract ourselves with movies, the atmosphere was heavy. The 3 of us exchanged nervous glances, each of us aware that the lanterns were looming over us, waiting for the moment we'd let our guard down. Maybe we should figure out what's really going on with these things, I suggested. There has to be some history behind them. If we can find out what we're dealing with, maybe we can break the curse for good. Owen nodded, his eyes lighting up. There are old records in the library. They might have something on that old man or the legend of the lanterns. So we ventured to the town library the next day, an ancient building filled with dusty tomes and crumbling pages. I half expected the place to be empty, but there were a few locals studying and reading, oblivious to the darkness surrounding us. We made our way to the back, where the old archives were stored. After searching through several books, we stumbled upon a dusty, leather-bound volume that detailed local legends. Our hearts raced as we read aloud the tale of the jack-o'-lantern seller, a man named Alaric who had once been a greedy merchant. He struck a deal with a demon, trading his soul for riches. But the demon had tricked him, binding him to the lanterns he sold, forcing him to harvest wishes from unsuspecting townsfolk to satisfy its insatiable hunger. We skimmed through the pages, uncovering the horrifying truth. The lanterns were cursed objects that drew on the lives of those who made wishes. Each wish came with a price, and if the flames were extinguished before the witching hour on Halloween, the wishers would lose something far more valuable, their lives. As we absorbed this grim information, I felt my stomach churn. What had we done? Owen slammed the book shut. We need to get rid of those lanterns before it's too late. But it wasn't that simple. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that the lanterns were watching me, waiting for the moment I'd slip up and light one again. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind outside made me jump. And then the nightmare started. I dreamed of Jake, his face twisted with obsession, standing outside my window, his eyes hollow and vacant. He'd reach for me, whispering my name in a voice that sent chills down my spine. Each time, I'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, heart racing. The next morning, I couldn't focus at school. I saw Jake everywhere, lurking in the halls, his presence suffocating. Owen was faring no better. He was getting more texts from Tyler. each one more menacing than the last. And Sam? He spent every moment staring out the window, convinced he'd see something horrible if he looked long enough. "Guys, I don't think we can just wait this out," I said, sitting them down after school. "We have to find a way to confront the old man. He's the only one who can help us. We don't even know where to find him," Sam exclaimed, frustration leaking into his voice. But that evening, something strange happened. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard a soft knock on my door. I hesitated but then opened it, and my breath caught in my throat. There he was, the old man, standing on my doorstep, holding a lantern that flickered ominously in the dark. "I've come for what's owed," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to sound brave but feeling like a child caught in a lie. He stepped closer, his eyes gleaming like shards of glass. "You thought you could escape the consequences? The lanterns belong to you now. You made the wishes. The curse is yours. What do you want from us?" Owen shouted, stepping forward. The old man smiled, a twisted grin that sent shivers down my spine. "A sacrifice," he said simply. "You must choose. A life must be given to satisfy the lanterns, or your lives will be forfeit." We were trapped. Panic surged through me as I glanced at my friends. They looked just as terrified, their faces pale and drawn. "Who are we supposed to sacrifice?" I stammered. The old man shrugged, his expression unreadable. "The lanterns will choose. You have until midnight." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I slammed the door, feeling sick to my stomach. "What do we do?" Sam asked, his voice shaking. "We need to stick together," I said, trying to stay calm. "We can't let them get to us." As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the tension grew. We spent the evening searching for a way to reverse the curse, flipping through the ancient book, trying to find any hints or clues that could save us. But the lanterns were growing brighter. I could feel them calling to me, pulling at my thoughts, whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. I tried to ignore it, but every so often, I'd catch a flicker out of the corner of my eye, and my heart would leap. Then, just before midnight, everything escalated. My phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "I miss you." I jumped, dropping the phone as my heart raced. The texts were frantic, filled with desperate pleas. I turned to Owen, who was reading his messages with a look of horror. "It's Tyler," he said, voice trembling. "He's coming for me." "Guys, we have to go," Sam urged, but I could feel the air around us thickening, as if the very walls were closing in. We bolted for the door, adrenaline pumping through us. But when we stepped outside, the world felt different. The street lights flickered, shadows lengthened, and the night was filled with an unnatural silence. Then we heard it, a soft, echoing laugh, low and chilling. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. We ran through the streets, but the path felt wrong, twisting, turning as if the town itself was shifting. We could barely recognize where we were, the familiar sights of hollows and twisted into something menacing. "Where's the old man?" I gasped, desperation clawing at my throat. "I don't know," Owen yelled, glancing back. "But we can't stop." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Jake, his face warped with an unsettling grin, eyes glazed over as if he wasn't quite there. "You wanted me to notice you, didn't you, Lila?" he whispered, stepping closer. "Stay back," I shouted, my heart racing. But he lunged forward, and I instinctively stepped back, colliding with Sam. We stumbled, and in that moment, the lanterns behind us flared to life, casting a ghastly glow over everything. "Make a wish," Sam shouted, panic flooding his voice. Before I could think, I blurted out, "I wish you would leave us alone." Jake froze, his expression shifting from deranged obsession to confusion. But just as quickly, the lanterns flickered, and something twisted within me as a wave of darkness washed over the street. The ground shook, and I could feel the weight of the curse pressing down on us. Then, without warning, Tyler appeared, shadows swirling around him. "You think you can escape? The wishes bind you to me now," he sneered, and before I could react, he lunged at Owen. The world erupted into chaos. I screamed, the sound echoing through the streets as we fought against the darkness closing in. I grabbed Sam's hand, pulling him away from the horror unfolding. The lanterns burned brighter, and a deafening roar filled the air, drowning out everything else. "Snuff them out! Snuff them out!" I screamed, panic clawing at my throat as the chaos surged around us. The lanterns flickered ominously, illuminating the malevolent forces rising from the shadows. I could feel the energy of the wishes we had made thrumming in the air, a terrible echo of our past decisions. As the shadowy figures of Jake and Tyler closed in, I turned and bolted down the street, dragging Sam with me. My mind raced as I tried to think of a way to break the curse. Anything that could save us. "Where do we go?" Sam panted, his face pale as he glanced back at the advancing figures. "The library," I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. "We need to find something in that book. There must be a way to reverse this." We sprinted towards the library, the cool night air whipping past us as the shadows pursued relentlessly. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to stop, to turn around and face whatever horror was chasing us. But I couldn't. We couldn't let the lanterns claim us, and we couldn't let the curse dictate our fate. As we reached the library doors, they creaked open ominously, as if welcoming us into the depths of darkness. We rushed inside, heartbeats echoing loudly in the silence. The air was stale, filled with the scent of old paper and dust, but there was no time to waste. "Quick, to the archives," I urged, leading the way. We dashed through the narrow aisles, shadows flickering in the corners of my vision. I could feel the darkness pressing against us, like a living entity trying to seep into our very souls. In the back of the library, we reached the archives, and I frantically began rifling through the books. "Where is it?" I muttered under my breath, flipping through the pages of ancient tomes that seemed to mock me with their silence. "Over here," Sam shouted, pointing at the leather-bound volume that had revealed the legends earlier. I snatched it from the shelf, my fingers trembling as I opened it to the page detailing the lantern's curse. "It says here that to break the curse, we need to extinguish the flames before the witching hour," I read aloud, my voice shaking. "But we need a heart's desire to replace it. Something pure, a genuine wish. Then we need to think of something," Owen said, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "What do we want more than anything?" Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the library's walls creaked ominously. Books tumbled from the shelves as shadows converged outside, eager to claim us. "Now!" I shouted, the weight of urgency pressing down on me. "We need to make our wish." "What do we wish for?" Sam asked, panic rising in his voice. "We can't just wish for safety. That's not enough. I wish for all of us to be free from the lanterns." I blurted out, the words spilling from my lips as if they were destined to be spoken. "Do you think that will work?" Owen asked, desperation etched on his face. "It has to," I said, feeling the shadows inch closer. We gathered together, hearts racing as we held hands, forming a circle. Together, I urged, and they nodded, determination flickering in their eyes. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. "May we be free," we cried out in unison, our voices ringing through the library. As the last word left our lips, a surge of energy pulsed through the room. The lantern's light flickered in response, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, the shadows lunging at us like hungry beasts. "Extinguish the flames," Sam shouted, and we turned toward the nearest window, desperate to snuff out the cursed lanterns once and for all. The air thickened, and I felt the oppressive weight of the curse pressing down on me. But I could also feel something shifting, something breaking free. The darkness writhed and twisted, as if it were alive and desperate to resist our wish. "Keep going," I yelled, determination fueling my voice. "We can do this." As we pushed against the shadows, the light of the lanterns flared one last time before they exploded in a burst of flame. A wave of heat washed over us, and I shielded my eyes from the blinding light. When I opened them again, the shadows were gone, leaving only silence in their wake. We stood panting in the aftermath, disbelief washing over us. "Did we do it?" Owen whispered, glancing around as if expecting the darkness to return. "I think we did," I said, a sense of relief flooding through me. But as I looked at my friends, I noticed something unsettling, a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. Just then, the old man appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "You think it's over?" he asked, his voice echoing eerily through the library. I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, shadows swirling around him, revealing the truth of his intentions. "The curse does not simply disappear. It must be satisfying, one way or another." Suddenly, the ground shook again, and a rumble echoed through the library. "What does that mean?" Sam demanded, fear creeping into his voice. "It means that one of you must pay the price," the old man said, his gaze sweeping over us. "Only then can you truly be free." Panic surged through us, and I exchanged frantic glances with Owen and Sam. "No, we can't let this happen. Someone has to be sacrificed," the old man continued, his tone devoid of sympathy. "You've made your wishes. The lanterns will take what they are owed. Not like this," Owen shouted, stepping forward. "We won't let you take anyone." But the old man raised a hand, silencing him. "You cannot fight fate. The lanterns are binding your souls now, and they will claim what is theirs." In that moment, a realization struck me. This was the final test, the ultimate challenge we had to face. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "We can find another way," I said, my voice steady. "We won't give in to despair." The old man's expression twisted with contempt. "You truly believe you can escape this fate? You've already chosen your paths. Let us go," Sam shouted, desperation lacing his words. But the old man shook his head, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "One of you must be the sacrifice. It is the only way to appease the lanterns and break the curse." As fear gripped my heart, I felt an overwhelming urge to protect my friends. "We can't do this," I cried out. "We've come too far to give in now." "Then you must choose," the old man said, his voice cold. "Who among you will take the place of the lantern's hunger?" Silence filled the room as we stared at one another, each of us grappling with the weight of the decision looming over us. The shadows danced in the corners, taunting us, urging us to betray one another. "I can't," Sam started, his voice trembling, but I interrupted him. "No, we won't sacrifice anyone," I insisted, a spark of defiance igniting within me. But the old man's laughter echoed through the library, chilling and hollow. "You will choose whether you like it or not." As the clock ticked closer to midnight, I felt the pressure mounting, my heart pounding in my chest. "We can't let fear dictate our choices." I shouted, desperation rising. Owen stepped forward, his expression resolute. "I'll do it," he said, voice steady. "It should be me. I've caused enough trouble already." "No," I cried, grasping his arm. "We can find another way." But he shook his head. "It's the only way. If it can save you both, then it's worth it." "Don't say that," Sam shouted, tears brimming in his eyes. "We're supposed to stick together." "We are," Owen argued, determination etched on his face. "But I can't let this happen to either of you." "Stop it," I yelled, my voice rising in frustration. "We're not sacrificing anyone. We'll figure this out together." The old man watched us with a smug expression, as if relishing our despair. "You have until the witching hour," he taunted. "The lanterns grow hungry. Choose wisely." With that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving us alone in the library. My heart raced as we turned to each other, fear and desperation thick in the air. "We can't just give up," I said, trying to hold back my own tears. "There has to be a way to break the curse without sacrificing anyone." "I wish I could believe that," Sam said, shaking his head. "But what if he's right? What if we can't escape this? We've faced too much to give in now." The shadows in the library seemed to pulse with life, their dark tendrils reaching out as if eager to consume us. I could feel their chilling breath against my skin, a reminder that time was slipping away. I took a deep breath, forcing my thoughts to settle. "We've come too far to let the darkness win," I insisted, my voice trembling but determined. "The witching hour is almost here, but we still have time. We can find a way." Owen's face was pale, his brows knitted with worry. "What if we don't? What if there's no way out?" "We can't think like that," I shot back, desperation creeping into my voice. "We have to believe there's a way to save everyone." Sam shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward the darkened windows as if expecting something to come crashing through. "What about the heart's desire?" he suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. "Could that be the key?" "What do you mean?" I asked, intrigued. "Maybe it's not just about making a wish to save ourselves," he reasoned, eyes brightening with a flicker of hope. "Maybe if we all focus on what we truly desire deep down, we can find a way to counteract the curse." I pondered this, trying to grasp the possibilities. But what if our desires conflict? What if that just feeds the lanterns? Then we have to find a way to unite them, Owen interjected, his resolve strengthening. "We need to think about what we value most, not just for ourselves, but for each other." "All right," I agreed, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "Let's each think about our deepest wish, our heart's desire, and then we'll share it. Maybe we can create a collective wish that will break the curse." We huddled together, holding hands in a circle. The library felt colder now, the shadows growing restless. I closed my eyes and concentrated on my wish. A warm glow flickered in my mind, an image of freedom, safety, and friendship. It was more than just survival. It was about the bonds we had forged. I wish for all of us to be free to live our lives, to pursue our dreams without fear, I said, voice trembling but resolute. "I wish for courage," Owen added, his voice gaining strength. "To face whatever comes our way, together." Sam opened his eyes, determination filling his gaze. "I wish for our friendship to remain unbroken, no matter what challenges we face." The air thickened, a charged energy crackling around us as our combined wishes intertwined. I felt the shadows shifting, hesitant as if unsure of how to react. But then, a sinister laughter echoed through the library, chilling me to the bone. "You believe your petty desires can save you?" The old man's voice slithered through the darkness, mockery dripping from every word. "The lanterns are hungry. They will not be appeased by your naive wishes." "No!" I shouted, a surge of anger flooding through me. You won't take us? We refuse to give in. The shadows writhed in response, growing thicker and more oppressive. I could see their forms taking shape, the faces of those lost to the curse emerging from the darkness. I gasped as I recognized them. Familiar faces twisted in anguish, their eyes hollow and filled with despair. They will consume your hearts, the old man taunted. Their hunger is insatiable, and your desires will only strengthen their grasp. No, Owen shouted, pulling me closer. We have to fight back. Gathering my courage, I reached deep within myself, drawing on the warmth of our shared wishes. Together, I cried, we will not succumb. In that moment, I felt a rush of power course through me, the combined force of our desires igniting a spark of hope. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned by our defiance. Use your strength, I urged my friends. Focus on what matters most. As we channeled our wishes into the air, the shadows thrashed violently, the whispers of the lost growing louder, more frantic. I could feel their anguish, their desperation mingling with our resolve. Fight with us, I shouted into the darkness, willing the spirits trapped within to join us. You don't have to suffer anymore. A chilling wind swept through the library, rattling the shelves as if the spirits were responding. The shadows began to thin, retreating in the face of our united desires. Your wish is too weak, the old man spat, his voice a furious hiss. You will pay the price. No, I yelled, a fierce determination igniting within me. We will not be sacrificed. The air shimmered as our collective wishes burst forth, forming a luminous shield that pushed back against the darkness. The lanterns flickered, their flames sputtering as if caught in a tempest. Suddenly, the walls of the library began to crack, fissures appearing in the once sturdy structure. I could feel the ground shaking beneath us, the very foundation of our sanctuary crumbling under the weight of the curse. Keep pushing, I shouted, my heart racing. We're almost there. As we strained against the darkness, I felt a sudden sharp pain in my chest, a piercing ache that radiates through my body. I gasped, doubling over as I clutched my heart. What's happening? I cried, fear slicing through me. It's the lanterns, Sam shouted, panic in his voice. They're trying to take you. No, Owen yelled, pulling me closer. Don't give in. Focus on your wish. With every ounce of strength I had, I channeled my desire for freedom and friendship, pushing against the pain that threatened to swallow me whole. I won't let you take me, I screamed, forcing the energy outward. The library shook violently, and I could see the old man faltering, his once confident demeanor wavering. You cannot resist forever, he shrieked, his voice rising to a crescendo of rage. But we were no longer just fighting for ourselves. We were fighting for everyone trapped by the curse. I felt the spirits of the lost join us, their pain fueling our resolve. Your darkness cannot win, I cried, channeling every ounce of hope into our combined wish. The shield of light surged outward, pushing against the shadows with blinding intensity. The lanterns flickered wildly, their flames flickering in desperation. Just then, a deafening roar filled the library, shaking the very foundations. You will pay, the old man howled, his voice echoing through the chaos. I felt the darkness closing in again, but this time, it was different. The shadows were weaker, struggling against our unified desires. Together, I shouted, and we pushed with everything we had. The bright light enveloped us, shielding us from the darkness. In an explosion of energy, the shadows began to unravel, disintegrating into the ether. The screams of the trapped souls filled the air, but this time, They were cries of relief rather than anguish. "Freedom!" I cried, feeling the weight of the curse lift as the last remnants of the shadows faded into nothingness. As the library began to collapse around us, I grabbed Owen and Sam, and we sprinted toward the exit. The door burst open, and we tumbled outside, landing on the grass as the library behind us crumbled into dust. Panting, I glanced back at the ruins of the library, a mixture of relief and disbelief flooding through me. Did we really do it? "I think we did," Sam whispered, awe in his voice. Owen nodded, his expression solemn. "But at what cost?" As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating the world with golden light, I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. The darkness had been vanquished, and the curse had been broken, but the memories of our harrowing experience lingered like an echo in the back of my mind. "We're free," I breathed, tears of relief streaming down my face. "Together," Owen added, placing a hand on my shoulder. But as the sun rose, casting away the shadows of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that the old man's warning still lingered in the air. "Do you think he'll come back?" I asked, a chill creeping up my spine. "Let him try," Sam replied, his voice steady. "We've faced the darkness and survived. Together, we can face anything." The warmth of the sun embraced us, and I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past begin to lift. "Let's go home," I said, knowing that whatever awaited us in the future, we would face it side by side. As we turned to leave, the world around us felt different, lighter, more vibrant, as if the darkness had lifted not only from us but from the entire town. But deep down, a lingering question remained. Had we truly escaped the lantern's grasp, or was this merely the calm before another storm? As we walked away from the ruins of the library, a sense of unease hung in the air, like the calm before a tempest. The dawn light painted the sky in soft hues of pink and orange, but the beauty of it felt marred by what we had just experienced. What if the old man was right? I asked, glancing back at the crumbling library, its once majestic structure reduced to rubble. What if this isn't over? Owen furrowed his brow, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. "I don't know, but we can't let fear control us. We broke the curse. That has to mean something." "Yeah," Sam chimed in, his voice shaky. "But what if there are more curses? More lanterns?" The thought sent a chill through me. We need to figure out what we're really dealing with. There might be more to this story. As we reached the edge of the woods, the familiar path home felt strangely foreboding. The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers against the sky. Every rustle of leaves and distant bird call made me jump, the adrenaline from our earlier encounter still coursing through my veins. "Let's stick together," I urged, pulling my friends closer. "We can't let our guard down yet." Just as we turned onto the narrow trail leading back to town, an eerie silence enveloped us. The usual sounds of nature, the chirping birds, rustling leaves, were conspicuously absent. It was as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. "I don't like this," Owen muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the sunlight dimmed, casting long shadows across our path. The trees seemed to close in around us, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. "Do you hear that?" Sam asked suddenly, halting in his tracks. I strained my ears and caught a faint sound, whispers drifting on the breeze, echoing like a distant chorus. My heart raced as the voices grew louder, intertwining with the wind. "They're here," I whispered, dread settling over me like a thick fog. "Who?" Owen asked, glancing around nervously. "The spirits," I replied, feeling a chill creep down my spine. "From the library. They're calling for us. We stood frozen in place, our breaths quickening as the whispers intensified. "Help us! Help us!" The voices beckoned, an unsettling melody that pulled at my heartstrings. Should we go back?" Sam stammered, fear evident in his wide eyes. "No," I said firmly, steeling myself. "If they need help, we can't just abandon them. We owe it to them after what we did." Reluctantly, Owen and Sam nodded, and we pressed onward, following the haunting whispers deeper into the woods. The trees grew denser, their twisted trunks forming a maze that seemed to shift around us. The whispers grew clearer, resonating within my mind, weaving through my thoughts. "Help us find the heart," they chanted, their voices a ghostly echo of despair. "Find the heart," I murmured, uncertainty gnawing at me. "What does that even mean?" "Maybe it's another lantern," Owen suggested, glancing around nervously. "Or another curse we need to break." "Maybe it's the old man's heart," Sam added, his voice trembling. "If he's the one who caused all this." The thought sent a shiver through me. We need to be careful. If we're searching for something he values, he might try to stop us. As we delved deeper, the air grew colder, the shadows deepening. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon us, watching, waiting. Each step we took felt heavier, as if the very ground was warning us to turn back. Suddenly, we stumbled upon a clearing, bathed in an otherworldly glow. At the center stood an ancient stone pedestal, intricately carved with symbols I didn't recognize. The whispers grew louder, swirling around us like a tempest. "Is this it?" Owen breathed, all mixed with fear. "Maybe," I replied, stepping closer to the pedestal. "But what are we supposed to do?" As I approached, I noticed something glimmering atop the stone. My heart raced as I reached out and grasped it, an ornate heart-shaped locket, cold to the touch, pulsating with a faint light. "Is this the heart?" Sam asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I think so," I replied, my fingers trembling around the locket. "But it feels wrong." Suddenly, the whispers intensified, drowning out our thoughts. "Return it! Return it!" they chanted, a cacophony of desperate pleas. "What does it want?" Owen yelled, his voice rising above the noise. "I think we need to put it back," I shouted, realization dawning. "The locket belongs here." But as I stepped forward, the shadows flickered around us, dark tendrils snaking toward the pedestal, drawn to the locket like moths to a flame. "No!" I yelled, clutching the locket tightly. "You can't have it." The shadows writhed, howling in fury, their anguished cries echoing through the clearing. "It belongs to us. Return it." "We can't," Sam shouted, pulling me back. "It's a trap." The air crackled with energy as the shadows converged on us, their forms twisting and contorting. Panic surged through me as I realized we were surrounded, cut off from escape. "Focus on the heart," I yelled, my voice rising above the chaos. "It's the key. We need to break the cycle." In that moment, I felt the weight of our wishes once more, the desire for freedom, courage, and friendship. With every ounce of strength, I reached out, channeling our collective resolve into the locket. "Together," I cried, and we focused on our heart's desires, willing the locket to break the curse. The shadows shrieked, their forms dissolving as the power of our wishes collided with their darkness. "No, you cannot," they howled, their voices a mixture of rage and despair. But we held firm, the locket glowing brighter with each pulse of our combined energy. The shadows thrashed violently, and I could feel their grasp weakening. With a final surge of determination, I thrust the locket toward the pedestal. "Let it end!" I screamed, and the locket erupted in a brilliant flash of light, enveloping us in warmth. The world around us exploded in brilliance as the light washed over the clearing, purging the darkness with its radiant energy. I could feel the shadows disintegrating, their anguished cries fading into nothingness. As the light enveloped us, I closed my eyes, trusting in the power of our collective wishes. The warmth filled me, pushing back the cold fear that had gripped my heart. When the light finally faded, I opened my eyes to find the clearing transformed. The pedestal stood untouched, the heart-shaped locket gone, replaced by a soft glow that illuminated the surrounding trees. The whispers had vanished, leaving only a serene silence in their wake. "Did we do it?" Sam asked, breathless, as he took in the transformed landscape. "I think we did," Owen replied, or written across his face. We broke the curse again, but even as we celebrated, a sense of foreboding crept in. What if the old man returns? I pondered aloud, looking around for any signs of lingering danger. What if he's not finished with us yet? As if in response, a cold wind swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves and sending a chill down my spine. The temperature dropped, and the sunlight began to wane, dark clouds gathering on the horizon. "We should go," Owen urged, glancing toward the path leading back to town. "Now!" Reluctantly, we turned and hurried back the way we had come, the path seeming longer and more daunting than before. The woods felt alive again, the shadows stretching and curling around us as if they had been waiting for our return. As we neared the edge of the forest, the air grew heavy with an ominous presence. My heart raced, each beat echoing in my ears as the shadows deepened, swirling around us like a tempest. "Stay close," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall silhouette draped in darkness. The old man stood before us, his eyes gleaming with malice. "You think you've won?" he hissed, his voice a low growl. "You've merely delayed the inevitable." I felt a wave of fear wash over me, but I forced myself to stand firm. "We won't let you take us." He stepped closer, the shadows swirling around him like a living cloak. "You have disrupted the balance, and for that you will pay. Leave us alone," Owen shouted, stepping protectively in front of me and Sam. "You don't control us anymore." "Ah, but I do," he replied, a sinister smile creeping across his. The shadows writhed at the old man's feet, responding to his malice like a sentient being, eager to reclaim what it had lost. The dark aura surrounding him was palpable, thickening the air, making it hard to breathe. My heart raced as I felt a wave of despair wash over me, but I refused to let it consume me. "What do you want from us?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady, my mind racing for a way to turn the tide. "We broke your curse." The old man's laughter echoed through the clearing, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You think mere trinkets and wishes can break the ties of the past? You have no idea the power you're meddling with. We won't let you harm anyone else," Owen shouted, his voice strong despite the fear etched on his face. "We're not afraid of you." With a flick of his wrist, the old man summoned the shadows. They surged forward, creeping like black smoke, reaching for us with desperate hunger. Panic surged through me, but I fought to maintain my composure. "Together," I yelled, grabbing Owen and Sam's hands. "We can push back." As the darkness closed in, we focused on our shared resolve, our friendship, and the light that had enveloped us earlier. Memories of laughter, joy, and love flooded my mind, pushing the fear back. "Remember the heart?" Sam said, his voice gaining strength. "We need to channel that power again." "Yes," I exclaimed, feeling the warmth of our bond radiate between us. "We have to believe in the light we created With every ounce of strength, we channeled our feelings into a glowing sphere of light that formed above our clasped hands. The shadows hesitated, swirling erratically as if unsure of their next move. "Go!" I shouted, and we hurled the light toward the old man, a burst of hope and defiance aimed straight at his heart. The light collided with the darkness, illuminating the clearing with a brilliant glow that momentarily blinded us. The old man shrieked, a sound of pure rage and pain, as the light engulfed him. The shadows writhed violently, trying to pull him back, but it was too late. "No!" he howled, the darkness around him dissipating, revealing the man behind the malevolent facade, a once proud figure now reduced to nothing more than a vessel of rage and despair. "Your time is over!" I yelled, the power of our combined hearts surging forth, overwhelming the remnants of his darkness. With one final, desperate scream, the old man was consumed by the light, disintegrating into nothingness as the last vestiges of his shadowy form crumbled away. The air grew still, and for a moment, silence enveloped us. As the brightness faded, we found ourselves alone in the clearing. The oppressive weight of fear lifted. The trees stood tall and serene, bathed in soft sunlight. "Is it really over?" Owen asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I think so," I replied, releasing a breath I didn't know I was holding. "We faced him, and we won." Sam grinned, his relief palpable. "We really did it. We stopped him." But even as I spoke, a nagging feeling lingered in my mind. What if he wasn't the only one? What if there are more curses out there? "Then we'll face them together," Owen said, determination shining in his eyes. "We're stronger as a team." As we left the clearing, the woods felt different, the shadows retreating into the distance. The whispers that had haunted us were gone, replaced by the gentle sounds of nature reclaiming its territory. Back in town, life returned to its normal rhythm, but the experience had changed us. The bond we shared felt deeper, forged in the fires of fear and triumph. We had confronted darkness and emerged stronger. Weeks passed, and the haunting memories began to fade, replaced by the laughter of friends and the joy of being alive. Yet, we kept an eye out, wary of the possibility that darkness could rise again. One evening, as we sat by the lake, watching the sun dip below the horizon, a thought struck me. What if we dedicate ourselves to protecting others from the shadows? We could be a force for good, like Ghostbusters? Sam chuckled, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. "Exactly," I replied, my heart racing at the idea. "We can investigate strange occurrences and help those in need." Owen nodded. "We could be the guardians of our town, keeping the darkness at bay." As the stars twinkled above us, we vowed to stand together against the shadows, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But as we turned to leave, I glanced back at the lake, a shiver running down my spine. For just a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing at the water's edge, cloaked in darkness, watching us. "Do you guys see that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What?" Owen asked, squinting into the gloom. But when I looked again, there was nothing, only the still surface of the lake reflecting the starlit sky. "Never mind," I said, shaking off the unease. "Let's go." As we walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that our battle was far from over. The darkness might have retreated for now, but I sensed it lurking just beyond the veil, waiting for the right moment to strike. And I knew then, with every fiber of my being, that we would be ready. Let me tell you about that Halloween night in Crow's Hollow, where everything felt normal at first. I remember the excitement in the air as families set up booths, and decorated the festival grounds with pumpkins and hay bales. I was there with my friends, Emma and Jake, ready to dive into the festivities. The atmosphere was alive with laughter, the smell of cinnamon, and the sound of children racing around in their costumes. But there was something I couldn't shake off. It was a strange chill that crept up my spine as we set our sights on the edge of the festival grounds, where an old scarecrow loomed. Old Harrow, as everyone called him, was a local legend. They said he protected the town from evil spirits, but if anyone dared to touch him, they would awaken something horrible. My friends laughed at the stories, but I felt an uneasy tension in the air. As we strolled through the festival, my curiosity got the better of me. I turned to Emma and Jake and suggested we go check out Old Harrow. They hesitated, exchanging nervous glances, but eventually agreed, driven by the thrill of adventure. As we approached the scarecrow, the festive sounds around us faded into an eerie silence. Old Harrow stood tall and imposing, with tattered rags flapping in the breeze, rusty tools jutting from his body like jagged teeth. Emma, always the brave one, suggested we dare each other to touch him. My heart raced as we exchanged challenges, each one escalating the tension. Finally, with a rush of adrenaline, I pushed Emma forward, daring her to touch Old Harrow. She hesitated, glancing back at us, but with a determined nod, she reached out. Just as her fingers brushed against the straw, a violent gust of wind swept through the festival. The bonfire flickered violently before going out, plunging us into darkness. That's when things began to change. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the very essence of the night had shifted. At first, we all laughed, thinking it was just a coincidence. But the laughter faded quickly. I felt something cold and unsettling crawl up my spine as the whispers started. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then they became clearer, muffled voices drifting through the air like distant echoes. "Help us! Let us go!" We looked at each other, wide-eyed, as the shadows around us deepened. The festival lights flickered back on, but the warmth of the celebration had vanished. The sound of laughter turned into anxious murmurs, and it seemed like everyone felt it, the overwhelming sense of dread that had descended upon Crow's Hollow. Jake suggested we head back, but Emma insisted we stay. "We can't just leave it like this." We touched him, and something happened. "We have to figure this out." There was a determination in her voice that both terrified and inspired me. We agreed to stay for a little longer, thinking we could solve whatever mess we'd gotten ourselves into. As the night wore on, strange things began happening. People started to disappear one by one. At first, it was just a few townsfolk who wandered too far from the festival. But soon, it became apparent that something was very wrong. Each time a person vanished, a cold breeze swept through the festival grounds, accompanied by the whispers that had now morphed into anguished cries. I remember running through the festival, looking for anyone I recognized. We called out names, but all we received in return were unsettling echoes. We finally regrouped near the abandoned barn at the edge of the festival, where we could still see flickering lights but couldn't hear any voices. It was as if a barrier had been erected, separating us from the rest of the town. Emma, shaking with fear, pulled out her phone. "We need to find out what's going on. There has to be something about Old Harrow online." We huddled together, scrolling through old news articles and local legends. That's when we stumbled upon the tale of Old Harrow, how he was created to protect the town from evil spirits that had roamed the fields for centuries. The legend spoke of a farmer who, desperate to safeguard his family, crafted the scarecrow with the last remnants of his loved ones, his memories woven into the straw. But it also warned of the curse. If Old Harrow was touched, the spirits would be released, and they would seek revenge on the living. Panic surged through me as I realized what we had done. We had awoken the very spirits that old Harrow had contained. The cries echoed louder in my mind, filled with sorrow and anger. "Guys, we have to do something. We can't just leave them like this," I said, my voice trembling. "We need to find a way to put them back." The only way to trap the spirits again was to confront them and help them find peace. The thought terrified me, but deep down I knew we had to try. Armed with the diary we found, we ventured into the haunted fields. As we walked, the moon illuminated the path ahead, but it also revealed the shadows that danced at the corners of our vision. As we entered the fields, the whispers transformed into desperate pleas. "Help us! You have to listen." They came from every direction, echoing memories of pain and loss. My heart raced as I scanned the darkness, searching for the source of the voices. I could almost feel the spirits surrounding us, their energy palpable. It was suffocating, but I felt an undeniable pull to follow their cries. In the first clearing, we found a figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her face twisted in anguish. "I was forgotten," she lamented, her voice a haunting melody of despair. "I lost everything, my children, my home." Emma, trembling yet determined, stepped forward. "What can we do to help you?" The spirit pointed to a nearby tree, where a small wooden box lay half buried in the ground. We dug it out, revealing a collection of faded photographs and letters. "These are my memories," the spirit sobbed. "I need them to rest." As Emma carefully placed the items back in the box, the air shimmered around the spirit. With a grateful smile, she faded into the moonlight, her sorrow finally lifted. But our journey was far from over. We pressed deeper into the fields, uncovering more spirits, each with their own tragic tales. A man who had lost his family in a fire, a child searching for their lost toy, and an elderly woman lamenting a life of loneliness. Each encounter filled me with a mixture of dread and compassion. We listened to their stories, helping them find closure. With each spirit we freed, I could feel the weight in the air lifting, but shadows still lingered around us. I knew we weren't done yet. We came across a shadowy figure, the last spirit, a man who stood apart from the rest, his face obscured by darkness. "You shouldn't have touched him," he hissed, his voice dripping with resentment. "Now you'll pay the price." Panic surged through me as I stepped back, my heart racing. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling. He laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Your lives for theirs. You awoke the curse. You have to make a choice." It was then that I realized he was the embodiment of the spirit's anger, their pain coalescing into this terrifying presence. I glanced at Emma and Jake, who stood frozen in fear. "We can't give up," I urged. "We've come this far. We can't let them suffer because of our mistake." Drawing on our courage, we stood our ground. "We're here to help you find peace, not to harm you," Emma shouted, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The spirit hesitated, confusion flickering in the depths of his darkness. "Peace?" he echoed, his voice laced with skepticism. "What do you know about pain? What do you know about loss?" We shared our own stories, how we had touched old Harrow out of curiosity, how we had awakened the spirits because of our reckless actions. With each confession, we could feel the tension in the air begin to shift. The shadow that loomed over us started to fade, revealing glimpses of his past, a man burdened by regret and sorrow. "I lost everything too," he admitted, his voice softening. "But I was too angry to let go. I wanted revenge." It was then I saw it, a glimmer of humanity within him, buried beneath layers of bitterness. We urged him to let go of his anger, to find the peace he had denied himself for so long. In a final act of desperation, We extended our hands toward him. "Please, you don't have to be alone in this. We can help you find closure, just like we did for the others." The spirit hesitated, and in that moment, I felt a shift in the air. The shadows receded, revealing the townsfolk we had lost to the curse. They stood behind him, waiting for him to make his choice. As he looked around, I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. Slowly, he reached out, and when our hands touched, a rush of energy coursed through me. It was as if we were sharing our memories, our pain, and our hopes. In that moment, everything changed. The spirits began to coalesce into a brilliant light, their faces transforming from anguish to serenity. The man's form shifted, and I saw him clearly for the first time. A once proud farmer, his eyes filled with a sadness that had been haunting him for too long. "I didn't mean for it to end like this," he whispered, tears streaming down his ghostly cheeks. I thought I was protecting them. As he let go of his anger, the other spirits began to step forward, joining him. One by one, they reached out to us, their fingers brushing against our skin like a gentle breeze. And with each touch, I felt a warm glow enveloping my heart. The shadows that had haunted them for so long lifted, replaced by a soft luminescence that illuminated the dark field. "I can see them now," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "I can see my family. They're waiting for me." With that, he turned, and I felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. The spirits behind him shimmered, their sorrow replaced by joy. They formed a radiant line, moving toward the horizon where the moonlight spilled across the fields, beckoning them home. Jake and Emma stood beside me, our hands still intertwined, anchored by the power of our shared resolve. The air around us crackled with energy, and we watched in awe as the last spirit stepped forward, enveloped in a golden light. He turned to us, gratitude etched into his features. "Thank you," he said, his voice echoing softly in the night. "You've given us a chance to find peace. We will no longer linger in pain." As the spirits faded into the light, the air shimmered with a gentle breeze. I could hear the whispers now. They were not cries of despair, but soft, melodic harmonies that filled my heart with warmth. The oppressive weight that had hung over the festival grounds lifted completely, leaving behind a serene stillness. But just as I began to relax, the ground trembled beneath our feet. The once silent festival erupted with chaos as the lights flickered erratically. The laughter of children turned to screams, and shadows stretched longer than the light could contain. "It's not over," I yelled, realizing that not all spirits have found their peace. A deeper darkness surged from the center of the festival, a mass of swirling shadows that coalesced into a grotesque figure, larger and more menacing than any we had faced. "You dare interfere with my domain?" The voice was a low growl, reverberating through the ground like a thunderclap. "You think you can free them without consequence?" Emma clutched my arm, her eyes wide with fear. "What do we do now?" she gasped. The darkness writhed and pulsated, and I felt a wave of despair wash over me. It was the embodiment of the spirits we had freed. Their pain and anger had not been fully resolved, and now it sought vengeance. "We have to confront it," I shouted, though my voice trembled. "We can't let it take anyone else." We stood firm, shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever horror awaited us. As the dark figure loomed closer, I felt an inexplicable surge of courage. "You're just a reflection of their pain," I shouted. "If we stand together, we can face you." The darkness shrieked in fury, its shadowy limbs clawing at the air. "I'll take everything from you," it howled, launching tendrils of darkness toward us. Jake grabbed my hand tightly, and Emma stood resolute, her fear now transformed into determination. We formed a circle, drawing on the energy of the spirits we had helped, channeling their strength and hope. "Let's remember who we are," I yelled, my voice cutting through the chaos. "We are not alone. We stand for those who have suffered, and we will not let their pain consume us." In that moment, the memories of the spirits flooded my mind. The love of families torn apart, the laughter of children lost too soon, the strength of the elderly who had endured countless trials. We called upon those memories, unleashing a radiant light that surged from within us, illuminating the dark figure. The shadows recoiled, and I could see their true form, the anguished faces of the spirits twisted in agony. "Stop!" I cried out, desperation seeping into my voice. "We're here to help you. You don't have to be trapped in this cycle of pain." As I spoke, the dark figure faltered, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Help us," it echoed, the anger in its voice wavering. "How can you help what you cannot understand?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to look deeper into the darkness. "We understand loss. We understand regret, but we also understand love and hope. Let us help you find peace. You can let go of the pain." The shadows hesitated, swirling around us as if contemplating my words. "You think you can just sweep us away?" It spat, but I could sense its defenses weakening. "Not sweep you away," I replied, my voice steady. "Guide you home. You were loved once, and you could be loved again. Release your anger and find solace in the light." As I spoke, the tendrils of darkness began to withdraw, revealing glimpses of the spirits trapped within. Their faces twisted in agony, but I could also see flickers of hope glimmering in their eyes. The figure thrashed and writhed, trying to hold on to its power, but the light from our hearts grew brighter, breaking through the shadows. "Let go!" Emma shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We believe in you. We believe you can find peace." With those words, something shifted. The dark figure let out a deafening roar, and for a moment, the air grew still. The swirling shadows began to unravel, breaking apart like mist under the morning sun. I could see the spirits within, those who had been lost to their anger, now awakening to the possibility of peace. Slowly, the figure diminished, and in its place, a soft, shimmering light emerged, illuminating the night. The spirits began to rise, their anguished faces transformed into serene smiles. They reached out toward the light, their hands stretching forward as they began to dissolve into the brilliance. "I'm sorry," the figure murmured, its voice barely a whisper now. "I never meant to hurt anyone." Tears streamed down its dark visage as it dissipated, the last remnants of its rage melting away. In that instant, a profound silence enveloped us. The festival, once a cacophony of chaos, was now still, the air filled with a palpable sense of calm. The lights flickered back to life, illuminating the stunned faces of festival-goers who had witnessed the transformation. As the last spirit faded into the light, a warmth enveloped us. We felt the embrace of those we had helped, their gratitude washing over us like a comforting tide. Emma turned to me, tears in her eyes. "We did it. We actually did it." Jake nodded, his face pale but relieved. "But what do we do now? What if something else happens?" I shook my head, trying to dispel my own lingering fear. "We have to make sure this never happens again. We have to tell everyone what we experienced." As we made our way back to the festival grounds, we could see people emerging from their homes, stepping cautiously into the night, drawn by the light that had burst forth. The townsfolk whispered amongst themselves, sharing the strange stories they had heard, tales of spirits and shadows, legends that had come to life before their eyes. The festival resumed, but a newfound reverence filled the air. People gathered around the bonfire, sharing their own experiences and recalling the legends of Old Harrow. As I looked around, I saw the fear that had gripped our town begin to dissipate, replaced by a sense of unity and understanding. Later that night, as the moon hung high in the sky, I found myself standing by Old Harrow. The scarecrow, once a figure of dread, now seemed almost peaceful. I felt a surge of gratitude toward him for the role he had played in protecting the town for so long. I turned to Emma and Jake, who stood beside me, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the firelight. "Do you think we really freed them?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma nodded, her gaze fixed on Old Harrow. "I believe we did. We gave them the chance to let go of their pain." Jake shrugged, a half-smile creeping onto his face. "Or maybe we just made a mess of things. Who knows what could happen next year?" We all laughed softly, but the laughter felt heavy with the weight of what we had experienced. The stories of Crow's Hollow had always warned of curses and spirits, but now we understood that darkness could be confronted, understood, and ultimately transformed. As the festival wound down and families began to leave, I felt a sense of closure settle over me. The legends of Crow's Hollow were not just tales to frighten children. They were woven into the fabric of our community, reminders of the struggles we faced together. But as I looked back at Old Harrow, I noticed something strange. The scarecrow's head seemed to tilt slightly, almost as if acknowledging our presence. The wind picked up again, whispering through the cornfields, carrying with it the echoes of long-forgotten secrets. I shivered involuntarily, feeling a chill despite the warmth of the night. The scarecrow's form, once just a crude assembly of straw and tattered clothing, now felt like a sentinel watching over us. "Maybe we should head home," I suggested, glancing uneasily at the darkened fields. The allure of the festival had faded, replaced by an unsettling awareness that something deeper lingered beneath the surface. "Yeah," Jake replied, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying a flicker of fear. "We've done enough for one night." Emma looked at the scarecrow thoughtfully, as if weighing her options. "What if he still needs us? What if there are more spirits trapped here?" I shook my head, the idea sending a shiver down my spine. "I think we've done what we can for now. The townsfolk will talk, and we can share what we experienced. But it's time for us to go home." With a reluctant sigh, Emma nodded. As we turned to leave, the moon illuminated the path ahead, casting long shadows behind us. We walked in silence, each of us lost in our thoughts, the weight of the night hanging heavily in the air. Once we reached the edge of the festival grounds, I glanced back one last time. The bonfire had dwindled to embers, and the laughter of townsfolk had been replaced by quiet conversations. Old Harrow stood silent, his straw arms outstretched, a symbol of both fear and protection. But as I turned to walk away, I thought I saw a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye. My heart raced, and I quickly looked back. The scarecrow's head had turned, just slightly, as if watching us leave. I felt a strange mixture of dread and relief wash over me. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Emma and Jake turned, their eyes wide with surprise. "See what?" Jake asked, a hint of panic creeping into his voice. "The scarecrow, it moved," I said, my pulse quickening. Emma frowned, crossing her arms. "Maybe we're just imagining things. We've had a long night. Or maybe it's a sign that we should come back," I replied, unsure of what I was feeling. "To check on him, to make sure everything is okay." The three of us shared a look, uncertainty hanging between us like a fragile thread. "Next year," Jake finally said, a hint of determination in his voice. "We'll come back and see what's become of Old Harrow. We owe him that much." The weight of our experiences lingered, a pact formed in the shadows of the festival. As we walked home, The shadows retreated behind us, the darkness less threatening now, a mere reminder of what we had faced and overcome. A year passed, and the festival returned to Crow's Hollow, alive with excitement and anticipation. The townsfolk buzzed with tales of the previous year's events, and although some remained skeptical, the majority embraced the legends with a newfound respect. Jake, Emma, and I had spent the months leading up to the festival preparing ourselves, sharing the stories we had encountered and the lessons we had learned. When the night of the festival arrived, we felt a mix of excitement and apprehension, the air charged with an electric energy. As we made our way to the grounds, I couldn't shake the feeling that Old Harrow was watching us, waiting for our return. The festival was vibrant, with colorful booths and laughter echoing through the night. But my eyes were drawn to the fields where the scarecrow stood. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, a nervous smile on his face. Emma took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "We have to do this. We need to see if he's okay." We made our way toward Old Harrow, weaving through the throngs of festival goers, the sounds of laughter and music fading as we approached the field. As we drew closer, I noticed a group of children playing near the scarecrow, their laughter ringing out like bells. "Look," one of them shouted, pointing at Old Harrow. "He's got a new hat." I frowned, my heart racing as I squinted into the darkness. Sure enough, a bright red scarf was tied around Old Harrow's neck, fluttering gently in the breeze. It was a stark contrast to his worn and weathered frame, and I felt an unexpected warmth surge within me. "He looks different," Emma said, stepping closer. "Like he's been cared for." Jake grinned. Maybe the town has finally embraced him. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye again, and I turned to see the scarecrow's head tilt slightly, as if acknowledging our presence. "He remembers us," I whispered, a sense of calm washing over me. As we stood before Old Harrow, the memories of last year flooded back. The spirits we had freed, the darkness we had faced, and the courage we had found together. We stood shoulder to shoulder, united in our belief that love and understanding could overcome even the deepest of sorrows. "Thank you for watching over us," I murmured, reaching out to touch the worn straw of his shoulder. I felt a connection, a bond formed in the shared struggle between light and dark. And just like that, a rush of wind swept through the field, lifting the edges of Old Harrow's coat and carrying with it a soft, melodic whisper. It was a voice filled with gratitude, an echo of the spirits we had helped. As the festival continued around us, I felt a deep sense of peace settle in my heart. The shadows of Crow's Hollow had not disappeared entirely, but they no longer felt suffocating. Instead, they stood as reminders of the battles we had faced and the bonds we had formed. That night, I knew we would return to Old Harrow again, not just to confront the darkness, but to celebrate the light that had emerged from it. Crow's Hollow was our home, filled with legends, love, and the promise that we could always find our way back to each other. As the festival lights twinkled against the dark sky, the laughter of children mingled with the gentle rustle of leaves, and I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. Together, we would face whatever shadows came our way, united in the knowledge that we had the power to change the narrative, to turn fear into understanding, and to transform legends into stories of love and resilience. And as we embraced the night, I couldn't help but glance back at Old Harrow one last time, feeling an unspoken bond between us, a promise that we would always return to watch over the light together. Have you ever done something thinking you're in control, only to realize halfway through that you've made a terrible mistake? That's exactly what happened to me. I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah, that's Salem, the place known for its witch trials and its supposedly haunted spots. For most of my life, I thought the whole paranormal thing was nonsense. It's like when you grow up with something, you kind of stop seeing it the way outsiders do. People come here looking for ghost tours or buy little witchcraft charms, but to me, it was just home. Until one day it wasn't. See, I've always been drawn to things I can't explain. Not in I saw a ghost kind of way, but more like I wanted to understand why people believe the things they do. I figured if I dug deep enough, I'd find explanations for everything. Fear of the unknown, stories passed down the wrong way, stuff like that. I wanted to know the truth, even if it meant proving to myself that all this paranormal talk was just folklore. Then I found the journal. That was the start of everything. When I found the journal in the Salem Public Library, it was almost by accident. I'd been sifting through old documents in the history section, trying to get a feel for some of the folklore that shaped my town's strange legacy. There were dozens of old books and pamphlets about the witch trials, but most of them were public records or general references. Nothing unusual. Then, tucked away in the back corner of a shelf, I wasn't even supposed to be browsing. I saw it.